female lead, guys.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
You found us.
Yeah. We're talking about a movie that we actually were very, very fortunate to see a screening of.
We're so special, guys. We don't want to like drop how influential we're becoming in the landscape that is Hollywood, but we are really making our way up the ladder, starting with sneak previews.
Sneak preview. I almost wasn't allowed in, but that's fine because I was tardy.
But that's okay because they saw you and you're like, I'm a strong female lead, and then they just let you in and they whisked you to primo seating. That's
a lie, but so I was with women in comedy, and that wasn't enough for them. They didn't even want me to come in after that. Told me that the position or the seat was for a reporter, and I said, but it's my seat. It's being saved for me physically right now. And then I just kind of walked in.
Okay. We are here to talk about Late Night, Mindy Kaling's first feature film. It was fantastic. I am biased, and I know it. I love Mindy. I think she can do no wrong. I watched the Mindy Project from episode 1 until the very finale. This movie has so many notes of the Mindy Project. I also enjoyed every single comedian who she brought up from the ranks, from either from the Mindy Project or just people who I admire who are comedians, just showing up in the movie and their various roles, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's what I'd like my life story to be. So there's that.
I got huge Tessa vibes watching this movie.
Big
I could like
vibes.
see her eyes. I like could see Tessa getting excited, and then that made me excited, and then that made me angry that
it wasn't you.
No, I'm fine with it. That's not my path. But then like she'll leave us.
Yeah, I probably felt a wave of different emotions, and I definitely got a vibe that this is Tessa's life, and just even the what she says in the beginning, these are my dreams, don't stomp on my dreams kind of thing. I don't know if you'd say that, but I could see you having your own mantra, whatever it was, and then being faced with, just a group of 20 white male workers, like writers, that you'd have to shut down.
Way through. In order to get to the top, get to my dream.
It was really good, and it was her first feature film, so she wrote and produced it, and it was picked up at Sundance by Amazon Studios for $13 million.
That's crazy.
Whoa. I mean, she did already have, she has a couple bestsellers under her belt and other projects, but that's still a lot of money for a movie written by a woman of color.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's incredibly impressive.
And it's awesome.
And especially since she had like such a kind of a rough go. Like she's like so, in my opinion, so established as a writer. I think they should have given her more money because she's also a very strong force behind The Office and why it was successful. You can definitely tell the changes when she left in that show, and then also the Mindy Project, writing, producing, directing a lot of that. So I'm like, they got a bargain, in my opinion.
I want to look into that because I read something, and I don't know the time frame, but I read an article about her wanting it being she's a diversity hire, right, in this movie. And then in the article she talks about how she was a diversity hire for The Office, but that she entered through a writing program. So again, now we're like commingling all sorts of lives for Tessa. But so I'm wondering if she entered in the writing program and then kind of wrote herself in. I don't really know, but either way, she was a diversity hire for The Office, and then so this movie is based on a lot of her experiences with The Office.
Yeah,
which is kind of like, ooh. So now you just want to think about the writers for The Office and what that might have been.
Oh yeah, I'm like I couldn't even name the rest of the writers' room. I know that Michael Schur was there, the guy who writes The Good Place and Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
And he's so nice that I can't imagine he'd be the one giving her shit. But you never know because that was a long time ago.
It's usually so not unintentional, but just
he's a showrunner.
So common. Michael Schur, but he started as a a writer for The Office. I love the exaggeration of the characters in Late Night in terms of the writer's room, but I do think it is an exaggeration. Yeah, you're gonna get like your couple entitled assholes who have through their divine births wound up in a writer's room, but most of them are just normal guys who think that they've I'm going to say because this is also my future story, Mindy, that my being there as a diversity hire is taking away from you or this project. And I'm like, no, I'm adding shit to this project. Yeah. I'm punching up these scripts as Mindy did as a joke writer in Late Night, just as much as you are. And just because I started out, somebody had to like open a door for me, doesn't mean that I'm not like worthy of my seat at this table.
Right, exactly. Well, maybe we should tell them what the movie's about.
Fine. It's about me. Okay, so Late Night movie follows the life of, Mindy Kaling is one star, and it's following her journey from factory worker to writer's room phenom. But it also follows the life story of Catherine Newberry, host of Late Night with Catherine Newberry, which is a late night talk show that's been on for years, apparently like decades, but it's in a rut. The show is failing, and there's a threat, the looming threat that the show will either be canceled or Catherine Newberry will be replaced. So we're following those two storylines as they intertwine throughout Late Night movie. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Late Night movie follows a storyline of Catherine Newberry, played by the gorgeous, amazing Emma Thompson.
Fierce as fuck.
Yes, she looked amazing. I don't know how old she is, but it doesn't really matter because she looked fabulous. I was like, whatever you're doing, keep it up. Yeah.
She looks beautiful. She looks natural, even if she's had nip and tucks, whatever. Yeah. Like I'm not against those by any
whatever
means.
She did, more people should do.
But she looks so vibrant and fantastic, and also like looks like her
an
age.
Older woman. Yeah. And I was like,
she's 60. Hilary just showed us her age. Yeah.
Hilary
I want to
coming
look like
through
that.
with the EP assist.
Like yeah.
But wow, 60's not even that old. Never mind, take it back. You just look good.
Yeah, she's old. She's old in terms of a TV host, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I really like that they use an older woman as the host of this talk show, and it's not just like some 34-year-old going through a midlife crisis. It's like a woman of age and of substance, which is like plays into her character.
And Mindy Kaling wrote the role for Emma Thompson before even getting Emma Thompson on board.
That's amazing.
So she wrote it with her in mind. Yeah, so that's another way that Mindy Kaling is bringing someone else into the mix, like bringing a female, but also bringing a female, who's above 40, which is probably considered old now in some of these shows. Basically dead. I myself, almost 40, one foot in the grave. Don't say I'm not almost 40. I'm 37. I'm closer to 40 than I am to 30. But I appreciate the defense.
I don't think there's anything wrong with being 40.
No, but it's basically, people think it's dead in TV. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. You can only play the mom or someone of authority. Like, you can't, it's stupid.
No, I want to play the hot mess for my entire life.
Right.
That I am.
But now, so that was just a side note. Go ahead.
No, I loved it. Yeah, and I think Emma Thompson, I don't think I've ever seen her do anything that I didn't like. As an actress. Maybe she's a shitty person, but
back to Late Night.
So Catherine Newberry is the host of the Catherine Newberry Late Night Show. And she's a pioneer and a legend, host tour de force.
It's been going on for almost 3 decades, so she's been on TV for a while.
Yeah, I'm like, that's...
Basically like grandparents and children.
Yeah.
Had seen her show.
Yeah. Which is crazy, because I'm like, what 20-year-old or, what 30-year-old has a late night show? Okay, never mind. Nobody at 30 has a late night show, because you don't have anything to talk about.
Yeah, but apparently she did, and she had received Emmys and was, okay.
Yeah, so that room of Emmys, and I was like, they were like, that room was ominous. I was like, this room is scary.
So Catherine has been hosting this show for almost 3 decades, and she finds out almost around the same time, she finds out that she's going to get replaced. Mm-hmm. The CEO, who's also a female, worth mentioning, tells her she's going to get replaced, but then also, and it might even be the same day, she's accused of hating women. Which is kind of an interesting Like, it just, the way the story goes is she's so threatened, it seems, or just doesn't like women in the workplace, which is kind of common for women to feel. And then also, but she is potentially getting replaced by a man. And so, I don't know, it's pretty interesting how they lay it out in the beginning, I think.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that she's like, you know, a woman who hates women in this movie, because so much of what we see when we meet Mindy Kaling's character is that about being a token, and I felt like maybe Emma Thompson doesn't hate women, but also feels, because of the era she grew up in, that she is a token, and having other women in the room is threatening to her status as like the one who made it, the special woman who's, you know, in this all-male field.
And you never, like, she never admits to being threatened, and it's really never addressed. Like, her and Mindy or Molly don't talk about her feeling threatened, but it's just something that comes up in the very beginning, that she needs to hire a woman, and that she's accused of hating women by the guy that she's firing, which is an incredible scene.
I loved it. Oh,
because he asks for a raise. He goes in asking for a raise. It's so beautiful. He goes in asking, and guys, we saw this in the theater. Did we mention we saw a screening? So we don't really have much to look back at.
Yeah, we couldn't watch it twice like I normally do for like these movies.
In terms of, so this is mostly memory, but he goes in probably expecting a raise, not even necessarily. He
asking
asks,
as a formality.
Yeah, and he uses the reasoning that it's a one-family income, and he has kids now, and they cost a lot of money, and so in her firing him, she claims it's like a teachable moment, which is so hysterical, and she says that she's kind of surprised, or she finds it, she loves that this is happening because he's asking for a raise based on the reason, like, it's a sexist way, or it's a sexist reason of asking for a raise. It's the same reason women were overlooked in the 50s for jobs, is men were promoted because they were family men. So he was asking for the same thing, and it just was, she's like, this is wonderful, and you're fired.
Yeah.
I love when she's like, you chose to have a baby. You having a baby doesn't make you any better at your job, yet you expect more money. It's basically like if you're addicted to crack. You chose to have an addiction to crack. It doesn't make you better at your job, but because it's expensive, you want more money. Your baby's like crack.
Your baby's like crack. She's like,
and then she fires him.
I loved it.
Giving a raise, this would be like giving a raise to a drug addict. And it just, like, she turns it on him so fast, and that's when we know that she's definitely the Devil Wears Prada type of character, which she does get compared to a lot, where it's just like, oh, thank you, goodbye.
Yeah, and and I was like, she's very, very British in that moment, and I was like, oh.
She's pretty stoic, and she seems to be enjoying it. But then he says, somewhere in that conversation, he accuses her of hating women, and then her right-hand man, who's hilarious and is played by Dennis O'Hare. We only know his name is Brad. But she's like, do I hate women? And he's like, well, you don't like them. So he basically tells her that she doesn't like them, and then she's like, well, hire a woman.
Yeah.
So that's where Mindy kind of comes into play.
Yes.
She gets interviewed.
And in her interview, she's sitting in the waiting room, and a bunch of the writers come out, and it's a group of just, you know, Ivy League white men, just broing out in their own writer's room type way.
Broing out in their nepotism ways. Like, dude, you got this.
You got this. Yeah. Talking to one of the writers, the head monologue writer's kid brother is interviewing for the job at the same time Mindy is, and they're just giving him the rundown, like, you're gonna get this, and blah blah blah, and, you know, telling him what to do and what to not do. And Mindy's just sitting there just like, if I were her, I would just be stewing, like, this motherfucker thinks he's getting my job that I worked so hard for and got this opportunity for.
And I think maybe she's not, I didn't get the feeling that she was stewing, but just because she knew that getting this interview was a long shot for her, because she got it by winning an essay contest an essay contest at her current job, which was at a chemical plant. And she won the opportunity to have an interview with, like,
anyone,
but it was like some sort of, it was like a CEO of a company, which then she linked to the media company, and so it had nothing to do with anything she was doing. So she knew she was in the room, like, just
by happenstance. Oh, that's how I feel like whenever I apply for anything these days. Just like, how did you get this? Oh, I saw it on Crazy weird job board that you needed a writer. And
so she gets interviewed, and so we know that.
So Mindy's interviewing.
Yes.
And so she goes in, and the guy, Timothy O'Hare, seemingly reluctantly gives her the job. And he kind of lies to her and tells him that the writers meet at 10 a.m. and they really meet at 8 a.m. So she shows up at 10. Why? I didn't understand that. I was like, why are you being a dick?
And they do start at 10 a.m. though.
They typically do start at 10. I think it changed last
time.
minute.
I think they're in crunch time because of her failing show.
Mm-hmm.
Because he didn't seem like he, I think that all happened a little last minute because he might have interviewed her before knowing that the show was potentially, that she was going to get replaced. Because he didn't seem like the kind of guy that would do that.
Intentionally like screw Mindy over, or Molly over.
But I have to say, during the interview, he asks, these are the only notes I have, then I stopped taking notes. He's like, are you a litigious person? And he said, because it's not really PC, there's lots of masculinity in the room, and she says, I saw most of the writers in the waiting room. I'm not too worried about masculinity. And then he says, you're hired. And she's like, I thought this interview went awful. And he's like, it did. And then there she goes. Yeah.
I loved it.
She's off.
It was so good. Mindy.
And she's like overwhelmed with emotion when she finds out that she's hired, and she's just about to cry. I love it.
Yeah, she literally does everything that you're, as a woman, like, quote unquote, not supposed to do. She's crying in the office and just just bringing cupcakes the next day to the writer's room, which was like very sweet. I would love if people brought me cupcakes to work for any reason.
That was a great moment though, because she goes in and, like you said, it's 2 hours late, and unfortunately she's just set up, by accident to do that. And then Catherine is like, it's just one of those shitty situations. She's like, take a seat, but there are no chairs for her to sit in, so she's just stuck. So she like empties the garbage can and then sits on it, and she's like, this is great. And it's just one of those, like, you're told to, and I've actually had bosses like this. They're like, do this, and you're like, there's no way to get this done. Do it.
Yeah, just make it work. But it's
Tim
Gunn.
But I can't sit. Like, that's an actual.
I'm like, I'll just casually like lean in the corner would have been my move. Like, it's fine. I'll just lean against this window. It's fine. No, keep going. I don't know. Yes, and then I love when Catherine gives them all the numbers instead of names. And I was like, what a great way to level the playing field. She doesn't care. She cares about all of us, at the same level, which is 0. And Molly becomes number 8.
I know. I loved it too. It's just funny that she's so removed. So Catherine has never met any of the writers except for the monologue writer. And so this is her way of attempting to connect. and her way of attempting to connect is just like having just really not really caring about what their names are as they try to introduce themselves and just cutting them off and referring to them as numbers. And that's her attempt to really get in the trenches with them.
Yeah, really inspire them. This is her rallying. Like, we're all going to do it. We're going to make the show work, and I'm not getting replaced.
So it makes me wonder, because you know more about writers' rooms than I do. Are people that far removed from the quote-unquote talent? Or is this just, because I don't know, it just seemed kind of like maybe a little exaggerated, but maybe it's not.
From what I know, that's kind of like a more old school model. Like, that would be like a Letterman, if you were to compare like Letterman to Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon's in his writer's room, or like probably not every day because he has shit to do, but he's way more involved in his writer's room than like
maybe like a
Johnny Carson, who is just like, bring me the jokes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so back to late night. So we're still we're ending the first act, so we've kind of set the board that Catherine Newberry needs a female writer. She gets Molly, and Molly's like a fish out of the water in this new environment of a writer's room.
The guys aren't helping. They're making her feel incredibly uncomfortable.
Not. Shout out to John Early, who I think fucking killed it. He was the, I hate to describe him this way, but the gay writer.
He was really good.
So funny. I love that guy. I'm so excited that I'm seeing him in more stuff. I think he's fantastic.
He was really good, but they would just kind of disrespect her in little ways. It was obviously a boys' club, but just, for instance, the women's bathroom. It's where they all took shits because there were no women on the writer's room, but they continue to have it be the bathroom where they take a dump after she starts working there. That's, like, I get it. when someone's not there, it's like, oh yeah, that is kind of fantastic. Then, the regular bathroom doesn't have to smell.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of still shitty. No pun intended. Or pun intended. I don't know. But then when she's there, they're still doing it.
Still doing it. I thought those scenes were funny though.
They were definitely.
When she's crying in the bathroom and the guy's just like kind of in the doorway trying to get in and she's crying so it's awkward, and I was like, yes, play this up. I love that tension.
I mean, it was just, it was funny. But yeah, they were kind of, and especially one that she eventually becomes friends with, but the one guy, what's his name, Reed Scott.
Yeah.
He was kind of shitty to her too, because he didn't want her to write for the monologue, and she was able to get some bits in.
Yeah. And I also think that, like, I don't know, I gave the character a little bit of credit because it is a very cutthroat room. Like, writers were dropping like flies throughout this movie.
Yeah, that's true.
If anyone, like, seemingly so much has looked at Catherine Newberry the wrong way, she's like, get a new writer in here. Yeah. So I kind of understoed that.
Oh yeah, because she fired someone in front of them.
Every 15 minutes she fired someone in the movie. Like,
yeah. She was.
I was like, oh,
she was firing at whim.
Firing at whim, including some of the main characters. Yeah, literally, it was like every 15 minutes she fired someone.
You're fired. You're fired, obviously. Oh, you must be McCreary. Oh wow, you're fired.
I loved that scene
too. Okay, so what are we? Where are we now? So Catherine is trying to appear likable, because she wants to stay with the network. So she invites them all to her place.
Yeah, well, her publicist insists that she's having to have a party and to invite like local media to kind of like, demystify her and make her more human and likable. Yeah. So she has this big party at her house.
Not what it does. It doesn't make her more accessible at all.
No, but again, that red suit with the bra, I was like, God damn, Emma Thompson.
She looked awesome.
Phenomenal. Yeah. I was like, man, cannot wait to be 60. Ugh.
She does make you want to be 60.
Right? And the hair. I just was in love with that haircut.
She looked incredible. Mm-hmm. But so that scene is pretty important because we've met Catherine's husband, John Lithgow, played by John Lithgow. We've met him. We know that he is battling with Parkinson's. And so that scene is important because we see him again and he's kind of by himself for a bit because he doesn't want to be around people because he knows it makes them uncomfortable, which is really sad. But then also we see an interaction with one of the other writers, played by Hugh Dancy, and Catherine. And so the seed is planted that something is amiss.
Yeah, something's happened. There's a history there.
There's a history, which is important later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then it's overheard by a sneaky Hollywood agent. Dun, dun, dun. And we're like, this has to come back. We don't just plant agents places for no reason.
And the agent of that shitty comedian.
I love him. What's his name? Ike Barinholtz. A Chicago guy. I love to see Chicago comics fucking making it and fucking killing it. Ike and his brother.
He's so unlikable.
The Barinholtz boys are...
Is he funny?
Oh, he's hilarious.
Okay.
Hilarious.
Okay. He was on the Mindy Project.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I think
he was
I was
like huge in annoyance
like
when he was in Chicago. Like he was like not annoyance. I.O.
Oh, okay. I can see it. I'm sure he's huge, especially if he was in this. But I think we were made not to like him, and I fell for it.
Yeah.
I was oh no, you do not get in the way of my Catherine. Like, back the fuck off.
He had some. Oh god, I'm trying to think of the stand-up joke. There's a scene of him doing stand-up, and God, what was his joke?
He was talking about
shitting in shoes. Yes. The punchline was that, like, when he feels like out of place,
or when people ask him to take off his shoes when he comes in.
Yeah. He's like, he just takes a shit in their shoes, and I was like, God, that is what I hear a lot. Open mics. It's not far off. Oof, my God. I wish if we were gonna do another secret podcast, it would just be us recording open mics and just to hear some shit that people say.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh God, okay, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Okay, cool.
Probably is scary.
It's not funny.
So is this before or after Molly writes a joke about the Republican joke? Is the party before or after that?
I believe it's before.
Okay.
Because they have to go back to the writer's room because it wasn't in that 10 a.m. meeting. It was another day.
Okay.
Oh, because she has to give notes. She gives Catherine notes, and then then they come back. So after the party, they all, they go back to work on Monday morning, and everyone in a writer's room, you come and you bring jokes, and you write jokes or bits or desk bits or
right.
You're writing. That's why you're in the writer's room.
So Mindy is in the writer's room, and she presents a joke for the monologue, and she's hoping that it gets picked up.
Yeah.
And the joke is about Republicans and abortion bills that are being pushed forward in the House and the Senate, etc., which is pretty timely because she made this movie a while ago, and now there's some changes being made. But the joke is that Republicans are, like, these Republican males are the only people that are interested in these abortion laws, and they're the ones that aren't having sex, and Catherine would be grateful that she's gone through menopause. So think about that from an stand-up point of view, like how that joke would be said. Now
I get what you're saying.
I just gave a narration of the joke, because I can't deliver a joke.
Oh, wait, try it again. Deliver it like this is your joke.
So, hey, welcome to Late Night.
Late Night with SFL.
Late Night with Tricia and Tessa and Hilary, SFL. Hey, have you heard about these abortion bills? Well, why is it? Tell me, why is it, everybody, that the only people interested in women having sex and what they do with their bodies are the people that aren't having any sex? Thank God I'm going through menopause.
That was excellent.
Thank you.
That was really funny. It had a very great late night vibe.
Thank you. Thank you.
I really liked it. Insert laugh track.
Anyways, and Catherine, I forget, I don't think she seems like she likes it at first, but then she says, trim it down and we'll think about putting it in, or something like that. So, like, Mindy walks out thinking, this will be a part of the monologue.
She thinks that this isn't something she should say, because, again, she shies away from, like, a lot of material that, like, is personal to her, which is...
I get it.
Strange for a comedian to not want to talk about themselves.
But then I also get it, right? Because she knows the game. She's been doing it during a time where you probably weren't.
Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit of foreshadowing towards the controversy at the end, and this being like a inappropriate sex joke.
Right. Quote unquote inappropriate sex joke but she still makes Mindy feel like there's a possibility that it might be included.
Yeah. She she kind of gives her the green light, and it's on the cue cards for her to read, and then she kind of moves past it at the very last minute.
She cuts it, and Mindy snuck into the studio, and she's waiting. She's just waiting for Catherine to say her joke, and she can't wait, and then, boom, Catherine decides not to do it last minute.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking. But pretty typical of a writer's life. At least Reed Scott tells her that, because he's alongside of her, because he gets to be in the studio at that time as well.
Let's talk about Reed Scott's character. What a trash basket.
Also known as Dan Egan.
Dan Egan.
He's
a big trash basket in that show, too.
He is.
He's the worst.
In Veep. I liked him in Veep.
Stand him in Veep.
I liked him.
I would cold clock
He's
that
the same person.
He's way worse in Veep.
He does have a lot more power in Veep.
He's like an idiot in Veep, though.
I think I kind of like his character in Veep. It doesn't mean that he's that good of a guy, but I think I actually liked him more in Veep than I did in this.
I thought he was so similar in terms of, like, I'm an entitled asshole. I'll do anything to make my way to the top. But I guess in Late Night, he does have a heart come towards the end.
It's because we know.
A softening of him. We hear a little bit of his story. And how he lost a friend to a lady. And that's enough, too.
I mean, he does have it tough.
His one hardship. Ugh. The one time he got left at a music festival was, like, the hardest day of his life. I was like, shut up, Dan.
That's actually really funny, because that is when our heart, like, opens to him. And if you think about the story...
problems. Do you? That's not a problem.
She's coming from a situation, a woman of color in the writer's room, and, like, trying to overcome all these obstacles. And he's telling her because he wants her to know how bad of a guy Hugh Dancy's character is, but it is the one hardship we hear him talk about. And he really got ghosted at a festival. I ghost myself at festivals. Who hasn't gotten ghosted at a festival where everyone's drinking? Yeah. Granted, it was his roommate, and he never saw him again, and that is a little bit
until he showed up in the same writer's room as him. I was like, what a dramatic story. Like, there was no Facebook. You could have just sent him a quick message, like, hey, dude, are you live?
Maybe there was Facebook at this time, because we get into media and, like, social media and stuff in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But that is funny. We're like, boo fucking who, dude. But that's when I start to like him. He did it. He got me.
Right?
Oh my god, that's so funny. So okay, so what happens then? So her joke is dismissed, but then...
So she's crushed.
She's crushed.
And she goes back to her love interest, which is the Hugh Dancy character, Charlie. Oh, right. God, what a sexy name.
Right. Oh, so this is... Okay, so yeah, we hear the story. Reed Scott gives the story later on, but he goes to... I love this. These are cliche scenes that are necessary, but I'm like, you guys, it wouldn't go down like this. Like, he comes down to the lobby because she pops by his
so
place.
Fast. He lives in some sort of high rise and then was just down there.
His room. He was basically waiting in the lobby.
Yeah.
For his scene. They didn't time it, so it seemed realistic.
Yeah.
He opens the door with his sweatshirt half undone, and I'm or half zipped, and I'm like, you guys, I know. You know right then that he was naked before. But it's like, we would know that if he just said, oh, it's a bad time, and acted awkward.
Yeah.
Like, I know he was in a rush, because it's probably, like, coital in the making, or post-coital, or whatever, but it's like, okay, like, we have to have him undone. It just always happens that way.
I bet that's in his contract, that he needs to have some sort of nudity.
So it just shows like the tiniest bit of chest.
Oh yeah, just so people know how masculine he is. And it was received, Hugh. It was received.
It was received.
He looked great.
I do think he's very attractive.
Yeah.
But she's upset, and it hurts
she
her
shows up
feelings.
with, what, cupcakes and vodka? And I was like, God, I love you, Mindy. You get it.
I'm kind of down with what she brought.
Yes.
Because she was sad, and so she wanted to be comforted, and then she realizes, oh, they're not really together. And he might not be as into her as she's into him, and then at some point Reed Scott tells the tale of what Hugh Dancy's really like.
Yeah. She shuts him down in the writer's room the next day, and she's like, I don't want to talk to you.
Oh gosh, okay, so then basically what I think the next big plot twist is, it comes out, and I don't remember how, but it comes out that Catherine was sleeping with Hugh.
So throughout the whole movie, the studio head, Amy Ryan,
also from The Office,
she tells Caroline, tells Catherine that she's going to be replaced. They need a younger person in to get the ratings up and to keep the show alive. And Catherine is all, this is my show, I built this show. But then they announce who the replacement is going to be, and it's the douchebag stand-up comedian with a joke about sitting in a shoe.
Yes.
And so she has him on the show, and this is the day they're going to make the big announcement that he's taking over. And then she doesn't do it.
No, she actually says she wants to stay, and she refuses to announce that he's taking over a position. So he's on there as a guest.
Yeah.
And she just kind of keeps saying, you guys want me to stay? You guys want me to stay? To the audience. And they have no idea that he's the one that was going to be announced, and he is looking irked.
Yeah.
Ike is irked.
So Mindy, irked. Or Molly, I mean, she was like kind of coaching Emma Thompson throughout the whole movie. She's like teaching her, how to like make it last. And they only have a year left, like make the best of it and stuff, and give people what they want. And then in that scene, she's like gonna go out with Grace, and she's gonna accept it, and she's gonna say yes, he's taking over. So it looks like she's in on it. And then Mindy's like, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Don't do it. They're telling you to do, don't do it,
Yeah, exactly.
She listens to her, and Danny Egan's like, no, she has to do it. She has to be in on it, and she listens to Mindy, and it worked in her favor.
And that was probably the first time, I'm guessing, that she listened to Mindy.
The first time,
to that extent. Like, I think she was taking in her ideas, and she was always asking her things during the meetings. So you could tell that respect was building for her. But this was one of those, like, game time moments where she basically told her to be truer to herself and not go down the way everyone wants her to go down. They think it's the better way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mindy / Molly's character takes Catherine's husband's advice in the beginning, which is to be useful to her. So that's her goal throughout the movie, is to become useful. And that is how she's going to earn her spot in the writer's room. And then her giving the advice that nobody else is telling her, even though they know that that's the right advice. This is her show. 30 years and, like, what is it, like 48 Emmys or something? Like, probably 30 Emmys, because how could you have more Emmys than years of the TV show? But
and then, my gosh, we totally skipped ahead, because she does have a bit of a rise, right? So she starts listening to Mindy, and she starts asking her advice, and she's like, well, so what do you think, is wrong with the show? And Mindy says, you're too old and you're too white, or you're a little old and you're a little white. So then they come up with this, like, media segment where she's on the streets so that she doesn't...
the white savior. I died.
The movie is worth it, even just for
the white savior. And any
brilliant.
late night host who worth their salt will pick this segment up, because it was fucking hilarious.
It was awesome.
I was dying. I think I clapped. That was the only time I was like, oh my God, yes. This is exactly. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge that you're so, like, demographically. Yes. This isn't enough. You are the last of a generation. Like, we will never have this again in late night. That every major late night host is a white male. Yeah. A straight white male.
Exactly. No, I know. Oh my God. But the white savior thing is awesome for a couple reasons. Because it's funny as hell, but then she's becoming a little more updated. So rather than, because she's so resistant to change, and I see this in a lot of professions with people who have been doing the same thing for 30, 40 years, have been very successful in the way that they're doing it. They're not learning the new concepts. They're not applying different tools. They don't want the advice of the younger generation. But it was a combination of her accepting it and playing off what she was, which was older and white, and then using it in the more modern way of going on the street, because she never did videos like that ever and thought they were stupid. And then she finds herself talking to these two black men on the street and asking them if they have trouble getting a cab because they're black. And they say, she said, what do you have trouble, making happen? And they're like, well, hailing a cab. And so she's like, white savior to the rescue. So she gets a cab and then just forces them in it because they don't even need to go anywhere. And she's like, white savior. And it's just perfect.
Yes.
It's amazing.
I was like, yes. Oh, God.
So she gets this, like, meteoric rise where then
they're doing it. Where momentum is picking up, and
she's in the news, she's online, she has a couple YouTube stars come on. She's doing really well. It's looking really good. And then I said earlier.
And then Ike, the incident with Ike happens on the show, and she's, she says she's not leaving, and then fall from grace. Next day, all over the internet is the story. They hacked Charlie's computer and got evidence that she had an extramarital affair with, that Catherine had an extramarital affair with Charlie.
One of the writers.
Hugh Dancy.
And it was leaked by that secretive, shady Hollywood agent.
He's Ike's agent.
Who's Ike's agent.
And he was pissed. Exactly. Because he knew he was holding on to that, because, I mean, that is a really good move on his part. I'm Team Catherine, but that is what agents are for. Yeah. And so he held on to it until the right time. He didn't blow it up. Even when she was becoming big, he didn't blow it up. He just knew to hold on to it, release it at the right time. And that's what he did, man. And everyone was really disappointed in her.
Excuse me, I felt so bad for John Lithgow. And I was like, no, John, you're so sick. How could you do this, Catherine? You're horrible.
I know. I have, I don't know, I have compassion for characters and maybe for people in that situation. Obviously, extramarital affairs are an awful and hurtful thing to do to your partner. When one partner is severely ill like that, or something like that is happening, I think there's just a lot of things at play, and it doesn't make it right. But I mean, even John Lithgow ended up showing compassion to her about it.
Well, and we find out their story of their romance at the very end, which is that John Lithgow was a college NYU professor who meets Catherine and leaves his wife and family for her. So I'm like, if anyone was going to have some sympathy for somebody cheating on a significant other, it would have been John Lithgow.
And he admitted he thought that it was going to catch up to him someday, and that it did. And I thought it was a really beautiful moment with them when he said the amount of positive things versus negative experiences.
And they were like in that actor's studio, like, and I was just like two great actors. I was just so thankful that this even exists. So I was like, yes, thank you for this. I was like, they were both just like showing everyone how it's done. And I thought it was beautiful.
It was awesome. Oh my God, we totally forgot a moment, but this is before Catherine's rise when she actually fires Molly because Molly wants to leave early because she's the MC of Cancer Isn't Funny. And she decides she's going to leave, and because she stayed late every day for the past month and she needs to go, she made a promise. She sticks to her commitment, and that is when I thought that was an incredibly strong female lead moment of Molly's, because this is her idol, and she's saying no for a bunch of reasons, because she made a commitment, but also her father died of lung cancer, and so it's a cause that's really important to her. And so then Catherine actually ends up showing up because she hears someone say, I don't know, maybe she wants to see what it's about, and then also she finds out that that Mindy's father passed away from it, and so then that's where she says the Republican joke for the first time.
No, it's not.
It's not?
No, she goes on stage and she tries to do...
She bombs.
She's like, well, no, she starts
bombs in the
doing
beginning.
like... She's told like kind of early on, like, you have to get on Twitter, you have to get on social media, and she's like, no, I'm too old for that. Don't know what it is. She looks it up. She finds out what Twitter is. So she starts her jokes off trying to make fun of Twitter, and they totally bomb. And then she's able to turn around by making fun of herself, which I don't really like. I don't like that she had to be self-deprecating, but that is what happened. Like, she was making fun of the fact that she was old. She was making fun of the fact that she was going to have to be in, like, old movies if she was going to go to Hollywood or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that's when she turns it around, and then she didn't make that joke.
She doesn't say...
You lean over to me, and you say, I bet this is where she does.
You've inserted yourself into the movie, and I liked it.
I totally did. Yeah. I remember that moment, and so I must have thought that it would be so fitting for her to do it there, and then I just made it in my head that it actually happened. And I don't know. Okay, you're right. I don't know when she did it. She did it at some point.
She did it when she was on the up and up.
Yeah.
And Mindy was getting more credit.
That is really funny. EP to the rescue. getting the shit right. And I'm like, she's going to do it right now. She's going to do it right now. Nope. Okay. So I guess that actually wasn't as important, except that she was fired.
It was, yeah. And then Mindy took a stand. She exercised her agency. She really came into her SFL.
She came into her SFL. You're right. So Catherine has a fall from grace, and it's painful.
It's very painful.
So what do you think about that conversation that happens between the really tough one that happens between Catherine and Mindy before they... Like, is she still fired? No, she's not still fired, but she goes to see her, and it happens at Catherine's
when she's
place.
being fired. The end of the conversation is Mindy being fired.
Or, no, after the cheating. After they find out
and she's
about
like,
that.
open these windows.
Yes, yeah.
But doesn't she fires her again.
She might.
Yeah, because she goes to the comedy night to win her back. She wins Mindy back, and she comes back to the writer's room, and things continue to go well until the other shoe drops, which is the scandal. Mm-hmm. And then Catherine is just like, or becoming a recluse, which, I would do too.
Totally.
And then Mindy comes over to, like, break her out of this funk and tell her that they still have a show to do. There's a couple months left, and they can still turn this around. It was her I keep saying rousing.
What do you think about
speech.
That?
I thought like this really showed, unfortunately, Mindy Kaling's. I think she let me down in terms of her performance and acting. Oh, okay. I didn't feel that she was particularly connected to what she was saying, or it wasn't. I didn't feel it. Something was missing in her performance of that scene. The words were there. What she was saying, those were the right words, but I didn't connect with Mindy in that moment.
She'd do a bad job leading a team of ragtag football players needing to win the championship. Exactly. She wouldn't be the right one to get them all riled up to beat the state champs from the year before.
Exactly. And I thought, again, like Emma Thompson killed it.
Nailed it. She nailed
it.
Scene.
And I think maybe it was just in comparison to it, the sincerity that I felt with Emma Thompson. Just like being 100% Catherine Newberry, I thought she completely melted away. Whereas I was still looking at Mindy Kaling be
Mindy Kaling. Because that's the kind of, she was very good about casting a lot of strong actors around her. But Mindy Kaling's strength, to me, granted I haven't seen the Mindy Project or only seen a couple episodes, but her strength is more in the storytelling. And Emma Thompson's just such an incredible actress that she was just going to like pound Mindy Kaling in that scene. But I was a little thrown off by the message too. Like, I liked that Mindy was telling her to come forward and own it, but Mindy did seem to kind of be downplaying the fact that this was a very bad thing that Catherine did, and Catherine then said it was. and I deserve this. And I didn't think it went that far. Like, I do believe that she deserved a second chance like we give everybody else. But Mindy, and maybe she just didn't need to in the scene, but she was just kind of like, fuck that, it doesn't matter. But I mean, what Catherine did, sleeping with an employee who's working for her, it wasn't really the affair part. It's the power dynamic with the relationship and stuff. I do think that is very shitty, and it shouldn't not be shitty because she's a female. That like takes away from, us being equals to men in a sense. It's like, oh, it's not as bad because she's a woman, and it was as bad. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know, that's what I got confused about, or what I didn't like about that interaction, but I agreed with like the result of it is getting her to be like, okay, I can come forward. Like, I'm a human, I made mistakes.
Yeah, I think the way I took it is that the conversation was more about, or was leaning it for me on the idea of excellence and Catherine's own idea of excellence, and that she couldn't reconcile this public shaming with her own image of who she is and how badly she desires excellence. And so to face that, the shame that's coming her way would have been unbearable. It would have just like shaken, and it did shake her to her core. Because it's not only who she pretends to be, but it's the image that she has out there in the world. From her suiting to her makeup to the hair, it is excellence. And to be shamed by the people who she, throughout the movie, kind of feels as though are beneath her, would have been too much. So I was so resonating with Catherine, and then I was like looking at Mindy, and I was like, you are saying some of the right things, but the affect behind it, I was like, I need way more emotion from you, from someone well, and maybe that was just because the dynamic between them at that moment with her entering the scene was that this is, even though in Mindy's mind, she's like bubbly and happy and wants Catherine to be her friend, this is still a boss-client relationship. So maybe that's where a little bit of that disconnect was coming from, where Catherine's like, I'm done with this. I'm like, you're seeing like inside of me, where Mindy's still just like, kind of the assistant bringing the boss a tissue. Like, I see that you're crying, but I don't really want to interfere. Right. You cried out, but I'm gonna leave these tissues here. Like, you do you. I don't know how I feel about the double standard.
It's like one of those double standards that it like doesn't, like the double standard that works in our favor as women on the surface is that, oh, it's not as bad because then we don't get punished as much, but it doesn't work for us systemically because it still brings us a little bit lower than men.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean, she does it, and she does own up to it, and Catherine then gains, she kind of comes back around, and the beauty of her character and like her and Mindy getting kind of like collaborating with each other is then Catherine then becomes more popular, rises back up because she shows her imperfections. So she admits to what's going on, and she has more jokes that have to do with who she is as a person, and she's going with the time and kind of like being more open personally in her creativity, like just kind of it's more about her, and then she becomes big again, man. She gets a new haircut.
But in the meantime,
she comes around.
In the meantime, Mindy does leave her.
She quits, yeah.
She goes to Seth Meyer.
Oh, she does, yes.
She turns Catherine down. Catherine turned her down when Mindy was encouraging her to be herself. And then Catherine came crawling back, and Mindy went to work for Seth Meyers.
Well, she comes crawling back after Seth Meyers. Yeah. So after she fires her in the open these windows scene, she's like, fine, I'm fired. And then she's like, well, now I need to find a new writer's job. We actually get the little bit of something from, what's the guy's name? Oh, shit. Tom Campbell. We find out about him and his history with Hugh Dancy. And then we get the interview with Mindy at Seth Meyers, which was hilarious.
Isn't that funny? I totally missed that she joined Seth Meyers' team. I knew that he offered her the job, but I guess the way I thought the ending was she was offered it, but she stayed with Catherine, but I could be totally wrong. I don't remember.
They don't do a good job of showing how much time has passed.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know we got a haircut. That's like the big thing.
That's the second
definitely
ending.
The definition of time.
Yeah.
Need a new dye job. She's looking fierce. She looks awesome. But Hilary, did you show up at Seth Meyers' hotel once?
Uninvited? Yes. It was a cold and rainy night in New York York City. I was walking alone.
You found out you felt afraid, physically afraid on the street.
I looked for shelter, and I saw Seth Meyers in his window.
Refuge.
No, he was the commencement speaker at Northwestern, and he was like prepping his script and everything, and then someone had to bring him breakfast, and I was like, I volunteer as tribute. I was like, take me. But unfortunately, like 8 other people also volunteered. I think someone brought him his food, and I was like, those forks are too heavy. Let me bring them. So
he doesn't want to waste his strength using a heavy fork.
So I brought. I think I brought up some silverware for him. We went up, and he was really nice and just had a big stupid grin on my face.
Oh yeah,
he's really charming.
Oh my god,
he seems super nice.
All right, so what do we think? SFL moment. What does SFL mean for this podcast?
SFL for the podcast means we look at women in television and movies who they are, or display their own agency. They are top billed.
Impact the plot.
And they impact the plot. Of which both ladies in this do. There's only 2 women in this, right? There's only 2 women? Amy, Ryan, 3.
Yeah, the CEO.
The CEO.
Who, I mean, she's not in it a lot, but she definitely moves the plot probably in the biggest way. Because then she decides to keep Catherine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she is the ultimate decision maker, but we don't see her that much.
No.
So we don't get really attached
I would love to see whenever this comes out on DVD, the bonus features and everything.
Yeah.
The outtakes and stuff. Like, this seems like it was a fun movie to make.
Oh, yeah. With that cast, oh my god. But the 3 women, though, it's so interesting because they're all
non-traditional leads, every single one.
They're all non-traditional
Well, there's only
leads.
3, but all 3.
And Molly, she's very earnest, and she is being nice to Catherine from the very beginning. But like Catherine and Caroline, the exec, they don't like each other. Then Catherine doesn't like Molly. Molly doesn't know Caroline, but she is impacted by Caroline's decisions. And it really is interesting because, like, as a workplace movie, it does show a lot of that dynamic. And I've felt this before is, because women have to fight so hard for their places in the workplace, you're competing against other women. And so it becomes very antagonizing. And so they eventually come together in support of each other. But at first, I mean, Caroline's really trying to take Catherine down, and it seems like it's not personal, but there's a tiny element of it being personal because Catherine has never given a shit about what Caroline has thought. And Caroline even brings up in a conversation that she wonders, Catherine, have you ever cared what I think is funny? So maybe Caroline doesn't feel respected in her position, and then Catherine doesn't feel respected in hers, and Molly doesn't feel respected in hers. And so it's just very interesting how they all kind of come together.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I agree completely. And yeah, I didn't really think of Caroline's character too much in like the grand scheme of the plot of this movie. But yeah, I see the same parallels in that. Which also sucks because the reason why we're all fighting for one spot is because it's been decided that men will have 7.
I know. Absolutely.
I mean, if there's only 8 chairs and we've already decided through nepotism. But I mean, also
and more like fighting for scraps.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking in comedy, like you just, and in movies, you just hire a lot of your friends. Like just looking at the cast and how many people I know are friends of Mindy Kaling who are in this movie, you also just hire your friends. Like part of me kind of understands that. But if you're looking if you look to your left and you look to your right, and everyone in your space looks just like you should maybe think something's wrong with my space.
I would like that policy to apply when you are casting, though.
Oh yeah,
your friends.
I feel like.
Yeah, right? Remember,
Tessa, I get where you started.
Yeah, remember that we were here.
Oh yeah,
in this living room. Nola's a witness.
Nola as our witness.
But seriously though, like they're antagonizing each other, but then also they're in the most power. So like Caroline is a heavy hitter, and then Catherine is a heavy hitter. So they're fighting for their spots, but they're in the positions of the most power in that show, like Catherine creatively and then Caroline business-wise. I don't know. And you're right. It's because there aren't as many spots. So somehow these women have found their way these positions.
Yeah.
But then they need to fight for them. And unfortunately, they're fighting against the women. But they all come together.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely do. What was your favorite SFL moment?
I think my favorite moment was Mindy in the interview. I think that's the hardest part, and you learn how hard she had to try to even get in the room, which is just like indicative of how hard, I mean, to call her a diversity hire and then to see how hard she had to actually try to even get an interview to even be in the room, I think gives even more like credence and shows just how hard some people are working to just be considered. And then how other people are just given things, and what what we all would like to fight against. But and her comment about like, I don't think masculinity is going to be a problem in this room. I died laughing. I thought that was brilliant.
And it was a funny joke, which then showed the guy who was hiring her, Brad, that she was funny.
Yeah.
So it just worked for her.
And they have that conversation like towards the beginning that's about like comedy is the only true meritocracy. You have to be funny to even be here. Like no one's going to gift you a comedy writing job without any sense of humor.
But you still need a program that will help people of diversity come in.
Yeah.
I mean, even with that, like a lot of funny people won't end up in those rooms because they don't ever get the chance.
Yeah, and you don't know how to transition a skill set like improv. Like a lot of people start doing improv, like just talking specifically about Second City, you would start doing an improv class, and then you would go, and if you really love improv, you could do Second City Conservatory, which is a more intensified improv program, and then you learn to write improv to sketch. Right. And sketch turns into, shorts. Shorts can turn into movies. Movies can turn into directing and producing. But if you're never in the room and you're never even told that this is an option, that's why representation matters. Representation matters, guys. It matters. It does. Especially when you don't see yourself in the room. I think like one of the points Mindy brings up is that like most of the people watching you are watching this on their phone. They're not watching it on like an NBC, like a network app. They're watching this on YouTube. They're getting clips and things need to go viral. Yep. And if you want young eyes, you have to do these men on the streets, and you have to be talking to us. We're not just going to listen to you. This isn't a lecture. And people of our generation don't want to hear lectures, except for me. I do love a lecture. I do. You can just tell me facts.
I like a TED Talk.
Yeah, I love a TED Talk. Oh my god, I listen to like Ta-Nehisi Coates just give lectures. I
know TED Talks are the best.
They're so good.
I would say my SFL moment for Catherine. I mean, she has a lot of funny SFL moments where she's kind of just being awful, which are just very funny in the way that she's treating her workers. But like an SFL moment that helped me see her grow as a character was when she took Molly's advice and didn't introduce the new comedian taking over the show.
Yeah.
I loved that. And she even said something like get the fuck off my stage, or there was something very funny, I think, in there.
Oh, yeah, she said that to the agent.
Yeah, something like that. And then Molly's SFL moment for me was when I think she really gained a lot of Catherine's respect in this moment, is when she refused to stay at work late that night and didn't give in to the dictatorial sort of environment and went and emceed the event that was very close to her heart. And I loved those two moments.
Yeah, and they say a lot, like a recurring theme in the movie is that you don't have a life, you don't have kids, you don't have relationships if you want to be in this room. And to see her turn her back on that in order to, do something that's important to her.
Yeah. And just really like Catherine changing, and being willing to open up more, and then Mindy also like helping her change, so it kind of came from an unexpected place. I thought that was all very, very cool. And we talk about it in terms of, we say white male writers, which obviously Mindy Kaling is poking fun at in this movie and pointing out in a serious sense. But race is a huge issue, and we talk about her being a diversity hire, and Catherine tells her that she was.
Which I loved.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like,
that's how we get in the room.
It's a necessary thing right now.
But yeah, and I love Mindy's response to that and saying, yeah, I had to beat out, every other person who looks like me to get in this room. You only had to be born. And I was like, oh my god, Mindy, you get it.
I mean, it's true. Diversity hiring is important and necessary and shouldn't be seen as a bad thing. It doesn't mean the person doesn't have talent. And then it's true, she still has to fight harder, even being a diversity hire. And Mindy Kaling talks about, like, in an interview with her, about how she was a diversity hire for The Office. And so she's definitely speaking from direct experience with all of this. And then after Mindy Kaling no longer works for Catherine, we see Catherine's work environment, and it's much more open, and there's lots of people, women and people of different races, and it's just very, very awesome. You can tell that she took what Mindy Kaling was saying to heart.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
Yeah, I was concerned because I thought originally, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I was only concerned with that last scene because it looked like they had just replaced all the white writers with, with writers of color, and I was like, well, that didn't solve the problem. That just created a new problem. That's just...
I know. I don't know what the time lapse was. I was thinking like maybe they just all moved on to something else, but yeah, you don't need to fire every white male writer in order to add some
that's
diversity.
not the point of the movie. So if you're a white male listening to this, that's not what we're advocating for.
We want you also.
Yeah.
So what would you rate this movie, Tessa?
I love Mindy Kaling, so again, this is a biased review. I'm gonna give this 4 out of 5.
Whoa.
Yeah, 4 out of 5 pantsuits, sequin pantsuits.
Nice. I like that.
Various colors.
You know, I don't know why I just said whoa, because I will also give this a 4 out of 5. Because it was just a damn good movie.
It feels good coming from you because you don't love comedies as much as I do. So it feels like this was legit. I feel good.
You should feel validated. This was very fucking funny. I don't go to comedies naturally, but I like the humor of The Office, and even though I haven't watched a lot of them, and I laughed out loud several times during this movie, and that is extremely rare for me, even if I think something's funny.
Right.
So it was so good. It was so well done. It had an important message. I loved it. I give it 4 out of 5 garbage cans. Garbage can seats.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Make your space, ladies. Make space for yourselves. I get that. I see you.
Even if it's on a fucking garbage can.
Even if it's on a garbage can, if you are leaning casually in a corner, you know, if you have to conference call or FaceTime yourself into a meeting, you get in that room.
I don't know why
you do what you have to do, ladies.
I don't know why I didn't say 4 out of 5 Emmys, but I went with garbage cans.
It's too classy.
So, thank you guys for listening, and we hope that you see the movie if you haven't.
Scrounge up all your pennies. You go see this movie.
And if you
do it for women,
haven't seen it and you listen to this, sorry, not sorry for all the spoilers. You should know better listening to this podcast.
Yeah, you should really know better. We always have spoilers. So
you can find us on Instagram at StrongFemalePod.
Yes, and find us on the Twitter. We need some love on Twitter at SFL_Chicago.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Okay. Bye.